topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Are you ready for Insights to Incite? Ready or not, it's showtime. Now get ready to listen in and watch right here on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Join us and together we will escape the mundane. Insights to Incite, here is your host, Brandon Lawson.
The one reveals it, the other sets it. So, which are you? One is a reactor, while the other is a responder. One is controlled, while the other has the control. So, which will it be? One, or will it be two? Do you set the mood, or is the mood set for you? Friends, this is Brandon Lawson. Today is Thursday, January 13th, and I want to thank you for tuning in, for joining us on our show today. And today we get into lesson 2 of the RUA series. And before we go any further, I just want to make mention of 2 specials that I'm airing this month. One has to do with the speaking, and the other has to do with the coaching. And I've got some banners for those. Roxy, if you had gotten those, could you put those up? Okay, maybe she don't have them. Okay, here we go. Yep. And no, these are the latest ones I sent just today. Okay, we'll just move on, and we'll try to get those at the end. So, for today's lesson, I should ask, when was your most recent visit to the doctor's office? Was it last week? Perhaps a couple weeks ago? Maybe the week of Thanksgiving? Or did you go right at the outset of Christmas break? And whenever it was that you had your last appointment, was that a follow-up to another appointment that you had just maybe a couple weeks prior to that? So when we think of that, if you did have a follow-up, your doctor, she might be wanting to check to see how your body is handling the medicine. Is the medicine doing what it should have, what she hopes it would do? And at times we might hear it said that, she might say that your body is responding to the medicine. Or she might have told you something that follows the lines of your body is reacting to the medication. Well, we both know which of the two, which one is good and which one is bad. But, if you were to think of yourself in this, and who you are, what do you think you would say about yourself when it comes to our report, of as we are the life we live? Do we see ourselves as, the reactor, the human version of that ticking time bomb that could erupt and explode at any point? Or are we one that responds to our environment, to the atmosphere, and sort of sets the temperature for the environment we're in? Yes. RUA. RUA asks, are you a thermostat or a thermometer? Today we are going to dig into both of these two. And we're going to look at these at a more in depth. And I want to try to highlight or bring out the very nature of these. And so maybe I should ask, which would you rather be? A thermostat or a thermometer? Well, it might seem that the answer would be obvious to us, which one we'd rather be. However, it is not. Yes, I say it is not because there are many people who enjoy being that alarm that sounds off, that goes around and is out to tell everyone everything that's going on. They like being that alarm, that one that goes around and sounds off to everyone. You and I might have heard of these people or might know of some. Sometimes they're referred to as a loudmouth or a big mouth. They're going on blasting off. Or some of these very people, I'd say a large percentage of them, in fact, are the type that just, wherever they are, wherever they go, they have to be the life of the party. They need to make themselves known everywhere they go. Well, I can't answer for you or anyone else, obviously, but I'm one who is more apt to be drawn to them who are of a quiet, spirit, have a quiet spirit about them. They're quiet, a gentle personality of such. And this is not to say that they're non-sociable, but they're not loudmouths. And to those who are of the loudmouth, big mouth type of such, when I think of them or when I've spoken of them before, and I still, even today, refer to it as such, but I often say, why don't you go billboard yourself? I mean, think about it. You could advertise yourself and your whatever you want to say to so many more people, everyone that passes by. You wouldn't have to go forth and tell each of them individually. In addition, people like myself would not have to hear you blow your trumpet or hear you sound off through your personal megaphone. I have to ask you, do you get tired of being around such people who, you just want to tell them to keep it down or to go away because they're so loud? They are in fact obnoxious of such. I mean, there's plenty of them today in our world. And that pretty much goes without saying. But which are you? And as we think of a thermostat and a thermometer, besides the thermometer sounding off or such, the thermometer, many times, what you see is they're that reactor. That's why I spoke of like a personal ticking time bomb, like at a power plant, the reactor. They react to things. Yes. So, besides being a reactor and very capably a loudmouth, what else do we know about thermometers, the personal thermometer of such? Any thoughts? Well, one thing is that a thermometer does not take the lead, whereas a thermostat does. You see, the thermostat found on the wall in your house or at your office, it has a thermometer within it. And that thermometer plays a critical role in helping the thermostat to identify the need at hand. And the need on the gauge that is on that thermometer, it tells the thermostat to do one of three options. It says, we needed this place to warm up, or we need it to cool down, or it tells it just to lay low, don't do anything. So we see that, this thermometer, is critical. But the problem is with the thermometer, while indeed it is critical, its use is very critical, it's very useful to us. The problem with the thermometer is that it is nothing more than a thermometer. So, what is it? What characteristics or what traits do you think of as we consider the people who epitomize these two types, the thermometer and the thermostat? Well, that is what we're going to look into more. Going to go into more detail on these people and to see just what it is that they do or why they are, how they are. And we're going to look at this when we come back. But first, we're going to step away to our first commercial break. And we have those banners we want to put up as we break away to commercial. And then when we come back, we'll put those up for you. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Are you on the edge of your seat and wanting more? Stay tuned as we go on a quick break, and we'll be right back with more Insights to Incite with Brandon Lawson right here on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Are you seeking a speaker or coach who speaks life into your people? If so, look no further. Brandon Lawson is one who will inspire and motivate his audience, as well as empathize and relate to all. Reach out to Brandon and let him be your speaker and life coach by sending an email to brandon@connectandimpact.net or by calling him at 513-708-1517. Brandon looks forward to speaking with you, to you, and for you. Let's connect and impact today. Insights to Incite, a real show with real-life messages. This show, which can be found on radio, TV, and our podcast, gives us insight to incite us to action and to excellence. Watch and or listen to Insights to Incite live at noon Eastern Time every Thursday on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Check out our past episodes on iHeartRadio, YouTube, or anywhere you listen to your podcast. Join us each week, and together we will escape the mundane. We are back with more Insights to Incite, so get ready and tune in to listen and watch. Now, once again, let's join Brandon Lawson.
So, as we think of these people and their characteristics, what I have found is that with those who are like the thermometer, these people, you'll find that their life, their world, is often ruled by problems. If it's not one thing, it's another. If they're not griping about this person, it's about that person. It's a constant, constantly playing. Their life is not led by them. In fact, they don't lead their life, but their life leads them. I guess it's a way of saying it. They're in a reactive mode, left and right, because those are the type that are always stressed. They're complaining, they're stressed out, but their life, their world is ruled by P problems. Second is, these people are, as previously mentioned, they in reactor mode. They react to everything. And it has been said about reacting. Deepak Chopra, in fact, if we have that slide, he said, every time you are tempted to react in the same old way, ask if you want to be a prisoner of the past or a pioneer of the future. And that is what happens when you're constantly reacting. Many times you don't stop and think, because that's at the very heart of the very nature of reacting. Reacting is like an instinctive thing, a reflexive. You just do. You don't stop and think. And these people that are thermometers, they don't set the temperature, they just reveal it, and they're constantly reacting. Then many times you'll find that these people are what I would say very insolent. They're people of insolence. They're very insolent in their ways. And these insolent ways show up, and these insolent ways show their ignorance and their total disregard for others. They could care less about you many times. William Hazlitt noted about these people. He said, the insolence of the vulgar is in proportion to their ignorance. They treat everything with contempt which they do not understand. And I've seen that in many people, especially when I'm new to a town. I just moved there. If I'm smiling and friendly to them, sometimes it bodes well, but other times, those people will treat you with contempt on the basis they don't even know you. And that for some reason, that seems to be a legit reason to treat you with contempt, to be, to show you that you don't matter. They're very insolent in their ways toward you. And they just react to, why is he smiling at me? And that they don't reciprocate it. But that's the I. Their life is ruled by P, problems. They're constantly in reactive mode. Then I, they tend to be very insolent in their ways. Then D, these people, as we think of those insolent ways and their contempt for others, what shows up time and time again is a disdain for life. Even if it's not disdaining a specific individual or a specific crowd of people, it's just they have a disdain for life. Those are people, they're never happy. It's like I've shared before about I often visited with the elderly lady, and I still visit with some elderly people today, but this elderly lady is no longer with us. But, when I did visit with her, Shirley, that is, people, often asked me about, why I was there so much, because they first thought I was related to her, like I was her son, when there was no relation. And, Shirley received my kindness. She didn't, even from the very outset, even before she really knew me, she didn't treat me with contempt or have the show insolence toward me. She didn't disdain me. And, what I often said to people is, Shirley receives me, and I enjoy myself. I enjoy myself much more when I'm kind. And, and I don't say that in a conceited way, but what I am saying is that you cannot hate yourself and enjoy life. No, that's just a given. You can't. And I tend to go where my kindness is received, where I surround myself with those who appreciate me. If I'm the one who has any say, I'm not going to take myself into the crowd of those who disdain me, or I don't, look forward to having an appointment with someone who has contempt for me. But these people, when they disdain life, just in general, the way they see a life is not good. And then E, actually, before we get to the E, one thing I will say about people who disdain life, they go around, they're very disdainful. You often recognize them in this, they have like a haughty spirit about them. And it was King Solomon, who at one time was considered the wisest person to ever live. And this man wrote about these people in the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 18, quoting from the KJV. It says, "Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." Well, that's what happens is these people who disdain life, oftentimes it leads to their collapse. And if they're not careful, it can be a total devastation, ruination to their character, to their life, because of that disdain. Then E. So we think of these people, we see their ego is just always, on full blast. Yes. If you were to notice such people who are thermometers and just revealing the temperature and showing everyone, these people, they go about, their ego is, at times will lead, will actually not only lead to problems, but any good that they have many times is wiped out because of their ego. Their ego turns others off. Now, it has been said that ego is the only requirement to destroy any relationship. So be a bigger person. Skip the E and let it go. Yes. You see, these people have an enormous ego. And if they could just drop the E, skip it, let it go. Don't worry. Don't concern yourself. I wouldn't even say it's a worry, but don't concern yourself. Don't even make it a point to advertise you all the time. Help advertise others. Lift others up. Get outside of yourself. Yes. And if you wouldn't, you may have picked up that what we spelled out there was the word pride. They're ruled by their problems. They react to life. They often are very insolent in their ways, their treatment of others. They have a disdain for life. And they generally have a large ego. Well, that word pride does not do us well when we're interacting with others. It's often, what comes in the way of us connecting. It's been said that pride builds walls between people. Humility builds bridges. So when you think of yourself and others, have you noticed where walls keep getting erected between you and the other folks? Or do you experience that connection, that bridge that fills that gap, that connects the two of you? Yeah. Now, as we look at those who are thermostat, these are the people that not just reveal the temperature, they walk into the room and they set the tone. They set the temperature that's in the air, the vibes. They are the ones who take the lead, not simply reacting. They take the lead to, they may find a room that's down and out and dark, dreary is the mood that's in the air. They walk in there and they change that. They set the temperature. And these people you find that P, they often have a peace about them. You recognize that even when things aren't good or there's bad news or whatever, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't, cause them to, you know, break. They don't get frazzled by it. They have a simple peace about them that that lives within them, and you will notice it as you see these folks. And that R is ties right in with the P, with the peace. The R's they have they have rest. They not just talk about laying your head down, but they're rest for their soul, and that's what allows them to maintain that peace about them. Their soul is at rest. Then A. These people are the type that they'll be the first to tell you, I don't know everything. I don't have all the answers. And I'm not so sure about that. I don't want to tell you that's how it is when I don't even know if what I'm saying is right. They'll be the first to admit that they don't know everything. And therefore, they're also, ones who are apt to ask for advice from others. Yes, these people realize that they don't know everything, and plus, they want to have it right. They want to lead people, in the right direction, not give advice that's wrong or false. So they have that humility about them where they ask for advice. And then why? Why is they have no issue in yielding to others when it's appropriate. They yield to others, and they yield to a higher power many times. But this yielding to others, and that they're not so driven to make themselves known, even if what they say, what they see, and what they have to say it will show they're right where the other may not be right. They recognize that they don't have to prove they're right all the time. That's not who they are. They recognize that the relationship is more important than being right. Yes. So there you have it. They're at peace. They have a peace that lives within them. Their soul is at rest. That peace allows their soul, or that rest allows their soul being at rest, allows them to maintain that peace, and in turn gives them rest for their soul. And they have no issue asking others for advice, admitting they don't know everything. And why? They're fine with yielding to others and not always making it a point to make themselves known. They'll yield to others. They yield to many times to a higher power, to the Father. Yes, the word pray. So, don't be a thermometer. Be a thermostat. Yes. Well, I want to share with you some real life examples of both of these, of what we see, some real life examples of thermometers and of thermostats. But first, we're going to step away to our second commercial break. And Roxy, if you could put those banners up as we go away to our second commercial break. And then also, when we come back, you'll find our speaking special January this month. and also the coaching special. Have any questions, can reach out to me at brandon@connectandimpact.net. We'll be right back.
Wow, that was insightful. Stay tuned as we go on a quick break, and we'll be right back with more Insights to Incite right here on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. Are you seeking a speaker or coach who speaks life into your people? If so, look no further. Brandon Lawson is one who will inspire and motivate his audience, as well as empathize and relate to all. Reach out to Brandon and let him be your speaker and life coach by sending an email to brandon@connectandimpact.net or by calling him at 513-708-1517. Brandon looks forward to speaking with you, to you, and for you. Let's connect and impact today. Insights to Incite, a real show with real-life messages. This show, which can be found on radio, TV, and our podcast, gives us insight to incite us to action and to excellence. Watch and or listen to Insights to Incite live at noon Eastern Time every Thursday on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. Check out our past episodes on iHeartRadio, YouTube, or anywhere you listen to your podcast. Join us each week, and together we will escape the mundane. We are back with more Insights to Incite, so get ready and tune in to listen and watch. Now once again, let's join Brandon Lawson.
So, as we think of real life examples, people we've read about or perhaps seen firsthand, who is Thermometer or perhaps a Thermostat, I want to look in the scripture to share with you some words that reveal this to us. For a thermometer, we need look no further than the Apostle Peter. And each of the Gospels found in the New Testament, we see an account of this where Peter denies Jesus. But I'm going to be reading from the account found in the book of Mark, the Gospel according to Mark. And if you want to follow along with me, I'll be reading from chapter 14. Beginning in verse 6. It reads, "Then Jesus said, 'Leave her alone.'" Or actually, I've got here. Take that back. I think it's Mark 15, verse 6. Forgive me, I wrote something down wrong. Oh, here we go. That was verse 60. That's what threw me off. I didn't see the 0. So chapter 14, beginning of verse 60, it says, "Then the high priest stood up before them all and questioned Jesus. 'Don't you have an answer to what these men are testifying against you?' But he kept silent and did not answer anything. Again, the high priest questioned him. 'Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?' 'I am,' said Jesus, 'and all of you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of the power and coming with the clouds of heaven.' Then the high priest tore his robes and said, 'Why do we still need witnesses? You have heard the blasphemy. What is your decision?' And they all condemned him to be deserving of death. Then some began to spit on him, to blindfold him, and to beat him, saying, 'Prophesy.' The temple police also took him and slapped him. Peter denies his Lord. While Peter was in the courtyard below, one of the high priest's servants came. When she saw Peter warming himself, She looked at him and said, "You also were with that Nazarene Jesus." But he denied it. "I don't know or understand what you're talking about." Then he went out to the entryway, and a rooster crowed. When the servant saw him again, she began to tell those standing nearby, "This man is one of them." But again he denied it. After a little while, those standing there said to Peter again, "You certainly are one of them, since you're also a Galilean." Then he started to curse and to swear with an oath, "I don't know this man you're talking about." Immediately a rooster crowed a second time, and Peter remembered when Jesus had spoken the word to him, "Before the rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times." And when he thought about it, he began to weep. But there we see Peter. He just reacted. He was, put on the spot. She identified him and, he reacted to it. That was the instance of where you see a thermometer reacting to life. And now we're going to look in the book of Galatians. The Apostle Paul, when writing about this same man, the Apostle Peter, we turn here to Galatians chapter 2. Beginning in verse 6. Now, from those recognized as important, what they really were makes no difference to me. God does not show favoritism. They added nothing to me. On the contrary, they saw that I had been entrusted with the gospel for the uncircumcised, just as Peter was for the circumcised. And the uncircumcised is the Gentiles, or the circumcised is the Jews here. And since the one at work in Peter for an apostleship to the circumcised was also at work in me for the Gentiles, when James, Cephas, and John, recognized as pillars, acknowledged the grace that had been given to me, they gave the right hand of fellowship to me and Barnabas, agreeing that we should go to the Gentiles and they to the circumcised. They asked only that we would remember the poor, which I made every effort to do. But when Cephas, and this Cephas is the same one known as Peter, but when Cephas came to Antioch, I opposed him to his face because he stood condemned. For he regularly ate with the Gentiles before certain men came from James. However, when they came, he withdrew and separated himself because he feared those from the circumcision party. Then the rest of the Jews joined his hypocrisy, so that even Barnabas was carried away by their hypocrisy. But when I saw that they were deviating from the truth of the gospel, I told Cephas in front of everyone, "If you who are a Jew live like a Gentile and not like a Jew, how can you compel Gentiles to live like Jews?" And that was Paul writing as stating his case for how the Gentiles are welcome in the kingdom as well, where the Jews said they're not. The Jews constantly were saying, "You're not one of us. You don't live the life you live." And here, Peter was playing both roles. So because of his fear of how, the circumcised, the Jews would see him if he's eating with the Gentiles, he reacted. He withdrew on the spot. Again, a reactor. And now, as we think of those who are thermostats, there's a church that's mentioned 2 different times. And I don't know that the same situation is, or the exact same congregation as who's being represented, but it sort of looks this way. If we turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 8, beginning in verse 1. We want you to know, brothers, about the grace of God granted to the churches of Macedonia. During a severe testing by affliction, their abundance of joy and their deep poverty overflowed into the wealth of their generosity. I testify that on their own, according to their ability and beyond their ability, they begged us insistently for the privilege of sharing in the ministry of the saints, and not just as we had hoped, Instead, they gave themselves especially to the Lord than to us by God's will. But here, they said in spite of their poverty, their deep poverty, they gave out of that deep poverty, had a joy. So they didn't just react to the extent where well, I'm poor, I can't do anything. Instead, they said, we want to set the tone. They begged them insistently, because they wanted to be a part of this. They wanted to join in. They wanted to be instrumental. They weren't content with sitting back and saying, since we're poor, we can't. Yet how many times do you hear that? I don't have anything to give. I can barely pay my bills. I'm in enough debt as it is. Now, as we turn the page to go over to 1 Thessalonians. Look here. In 1 Thessalonians, beginning in verse 2, we always thank God for all of you, remembering you constantly in our prayers. We recall in the presence of our God and Father your work of faith, labor of love, and endurance of hope in our Lord Jesus Christ, knowing that your election, brothers loved by God. For our gospel did not come to you in word only, but also in power, in the Holy Spirit, and with much assurance. You know what kind of men we were among you for your benefit, and you became imitators of us and of the Lord in spite of severe persecution. You welcomed the message with joy from the Holy Spirit. As a result, you became an example to all the believers in Macedonia and Achaia. For the Lord's message rang out from you, not only in Macedonia and Achaia, but in every place that your faith in God has gone out. But again, this is in spite of. In spite of. They didn't have it so great, but in spite of severe persecution. So they didn't react. They chose to be better in spite of what they were going through, in spite of the persecution coming against them. Friends, there you have it. The thermometers and thermostats. As we wrap up today's show, I do want to mention, a couple words. One comes from the former Secretary of Agriculture under the Eisenhower administration. It was Ezra Taft Benson who said, "Pride is concerned with who is right. Humility is concerned with what is right." I mean, don't you see that? Pride wants to make sure that, others see that I'm right. Yes, me, I'm right. Humility doesn't care if they're recognized for being right as much as that the truth is being spoken, that, what is right is being conveyed, whether it comes from them or someone else. And then we have, the satirist from the 19th century who also was a minister back in his day, Buddy Robinson, or at times he was called Uncle Bud Robinson. I love this quote. It sort of has some humor in it, but it's so true. He said, "Pride is the only disease known to man that makes everyone sick except the one who has it." Haven't you noticed that? Those who are so proud of who they are and have this haughtiness and this, arrogance about them. Yeah, these people are so proud. They go about boasting. See, I'm right. See me, see me, see me. Their world consists of 3 in 1. That me, myself, and I. And they make us sick. Everyone around them just wants to upchuck. We don't like to be around those people. So don't be one. Be a thermostat, not a thermometer. Take the lead. You will enjoy life so much more when you are leading your life instead of your life leading you. Don't be that reactor. Be the thermostat. Friends, that's pretty much wraps it up for today's show. And as I always say when we're nearing the end, that I understand that you and I won't agree on everything. We will not always see everything eye to eye. Still, I invite you to join me here on Eye to Eye, Insights to Incite. We are here every Thursday at 12 noon Eastern on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. And you can find our podcast on nearly any platform, whatever platform you access your podcast at. We should be there. Just search Insights to Incite. Thanks for joining us.
Wow, what an insightful show. Thanks for listening in and watching today. If you missed any part of today's show or any other episode, check it out on iHeartRadio, YouTube, or anywhere you listen to your podcast. Now take today's insight and utilize it. Incite yourself to action and to excellence in the week ahead, and join us again next Thursday and every Thursday at 12 noon Eastern Time for another insightful session with Brandon Lawson as he speaks to us and shares some more insights to incite right here on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV.